So what are you gonna do? You're gonna make a video?
We're recording right now.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But you're not in the picture there.
Well, yeah, but again, this is not about me, this is about you.
Yeah, but I want you to be in it too.
Well, I'm here on the side, you can see my belly.
Yeah. Is my hair okay?
Your hair looks fine. And, so the last time we were talking about, Mem's childhood.
Okay.
And I thought maybe that would be a place to start.
Mhm.
Start with Mem's childhood, then maybe, how she grew up, how she met Pep, and, start
That's
with
an interesting story.
some of the early family history.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Now?
go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'll start with Mem, our great, beautiful Mem. And she was born in Canada in a little village called La Durantaine, which was in Quebec, in the, let me see. Yeah, in Quebec, on the other side of the city. And she grew up on a farm, and her father, Mike Pep, was a like a traveling salesman. He used to sell grain, and he traveled, from village to village to sell grain. And so they had a good farm, and they had,
What was the grain? Was the grain for
For-
cattle feed?
yeah, some kind of feed. I'm not sure just what
Okay.
kind, but that's what he did. He traveled from village to village, selling to the farmers. So Mem,
And that was your grandfather.
that was my grandfather.
Okay.
And my grandmother, Mem's mother, was home alone with the boys, and there was Mem and Aunt Bertha, and what's the other aunt in the city. But anyway, there were 3 girls and 4 boys. None of the boys liked farming. They were more city boys. So her sister Bertha, they educated her so that she could teach in the village school. And so she did well with that. Mem was kind of the person that did everything what the others didn't want to do. And the boys were supposed to go out to the farm, milk cows and do all the farm work, but none of them liked that. They always reneged on all of their chores. So who would go out there? Mem, she was always quick and ready to do something, and she'd get mad at them, and she'd go out and do the work. Now, my grandma should have, had the boys more responsible for what they needed to do. So, anyways, one night in particular, one of them or whoever was supposed to do barn chores, they were supposed to milk the cows. Well, none of them were handy to do the milking. So there's our Mem. It was dark. She runs out to the barn, and there's a light pole right in her path. So in her rush, what does she do? She slams right into the light pole and breaks her nose. So that's the way she was, So anyways,
How many cows did they have?
Oh, at the time, they've had probably 8-10 cows. So you didn't do that in 5 minutes,
And they would use the milk for their own purposes on the farm?
They'd use what?
The milk, would they sell
Oh,
it?
no, they kept what they needed, but then they sold the rest. Down the hill, their farm was right in the city, in the middle of the village, I shouldn't say city, middle of the village. And across the road from where their farm was what they called la crèmerie. that was a creamery where they made butter and then they sold it too. It went out on trains and whatever. So they'd have their big milk jugs by the side of the road on their side of the farm, and it was brought over to the creamery to make butter and whatever. Then that would go on the train, and they would go into the city to Quebec. So, anyways, Mem was a big one for doing that, where my grandma really should have gotten after the boys to do that work.
Now, when Mem was living on the farm, was she going to school?
Yes, they had a little village school, and you know how little village schools were at the time. And she'd do chores in the morning and chores when she got home. Mem only had a 6th grade education,
Yeah,
but she was a self-educated person.
yeah.
Mem was always interested in reading and learning different things. So anyways, when she turned 16, she went into the city to work for a wealthy family as a nanny. And she was only 16 years old.
Wow.
And there were like maybe 6 kids, six to 8 kids in that family. And she was, you know, the mother was one of these ladies with money and expected the nanny to do everything. And Mem, being the type of person that she was, you know, she'd make meals and she'd do house cleaning. And then she was practically raising these kids.
Wow.
So anyways, she worked for them in the city, and of course she was a live-in nanny, so she stayed there too. And that was hard work too, not farm work, but you know, housework and cooking and cleaning, and I think they took advantage of her too, so. But
How long did she do that for?
she did that for a couple years, and then, let me see, what did she do after that? And in the meantime, her sister Bertha, they were grooming her to be the village teacher.
Wasn't it Mem, Gertrude, and
Now Gertrude was a sister-in-law.
sister-in-law? Okay.
Yeah, it was Mem, Clyde, and Bertha, and what was the one in the city? Oh, you know, you're catching me bare there, Rick.
No, we're gonna have to go back through the photo
Yeah.
albums.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can't think of her sister's name that
Yeah.
was in. So
That's okay.
yeah, so it'll come to me. There, you're catching me unawares
Yeah.
because I didn't expect this.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to prepare my memories.
Yeah, you're doing well.
Yeah. So anyways, in the meantime, Pep lived a few miles away from the village. They were on a big farm, and it was on like, oh God, how many miles? A few miles from the village where Mem lived.
When you say big farm, any idea how many acres or how big it was?
Can't tell you, but I know they had like a dozen cows.
Okay.
And they had chickens and they had pigs, because I stayed at my paternal grandparents. Every summer we'd go for 2 weeks, and then one summer I spent 2 months there.
Isn't that where we went a couple times when we were kids?
After, yeah.
Okay.
But when I was a kid, I was probably 12, 14. I had spent a summer there and spoke French constantly, to the point when I came back to the States, I was only talking in French. And everybody Harvey and Lou were laughing at me because I was talking in French.
Wow.
So I spent 2 whole months there, and I worked on the farm. I learned how to milk cows, and then when they were collecting, how do you say, the hay, harvesting
You're right.
the hay, I was up on the hay pile, you know, they throw up
And that was on Pep's
that's
parents'
my,
farm.
yeah, my
Okay.
paternal, yeah.
Okay, so
Good.
now we're back to Mem was growing up.
Okay,
Mem was working as the nanny,
yeah, she worked as a I think she did that for a couple years.
and then Pep grew up on a farm a
He
few
grew up
miles
and
away.
he left the farm, he was 14 years old. Because at the time, they were like 6 boys, and, you know, there wasn't enough, work for all of these boys to keep them busy on the farm. So he left, he was 14, and he worked as a lumberjack in the woods, cutting down trees and things.
Wow.
And he had a broken leg. Did you know he had a broken leg when he was young? Well, anyways, they were cutting down trees. One tree fell on his leg, broke his leg. And of course, you didn't have orthopedic doctors at the time, so they bound him up some way, and he just kept working, you know.
Wow.
So it couldn't have been a bad break, but enough that it fell over his leg. So he worked there for a couple years, and I don't know where he went after that. You know, I used to talk to Mem a lot, but a lot of things we didn't discuss, because eventually he moved to the States, and he had an uncle. My father's name was Arthur Blaze. He had an uncle in Springfield called Arthur Blaze, and he had, what do they call it? They dug basements,
Mm-hmm.
not with
Hold on.
whatchamacallit, you know, the equipment.